Hey, middle school tribe. Hey, just want to talk about this week's beatitude. And it's really the last beatitude, though there's one more week within this series. But this one really hits home. It really hits hard. And it's simply this from Matthew 5:11 and 12. And it says this: Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For they persecuted the prophets who were before you as well. Well, there's a lot in that. And we have to understand the type of persecution that you'll face in middle school in the year 2020 and the year 2021, and even back as far as 2019, is radically different than the type of persecution that they faced in the early church throughout the Old Testament and things of that nature. I don't think many of you guys are being beaten and killed. Maybe some of you are being bullied, but like literally people were being murdered for their faith. And so I just want to just touch on it. The type of persecution that we face, radically different than what we see in the Bible and even some places around the world today. Now, that doesn't minimize what you might be going through if you are facing any type of persecution. The good thing is the Bible has some things to say about that. And there's some takeaways from it. But here's the hard part, that sometimes it's really hard for just even me as a youth pastor, and even for your parents to, we don't want to see any of our kids, and I don't want to see any kids in my youth group being picked on or being bullied, and I don't want to see you guys going through tough times because of your faith. Your parents want to protect you from anything bad to happen in your life. And yet, if we're going to live out our Christian life, there's going to be persecution. I said this in the Eat, Play, Pray video. I use this verse, 2 Timothy 3:12, and it literally says, everyone who wants to live a godly life will be persecuted. We see, even Jesus in John 15:20, he kind of refers to like, hey, if they're going to persecute me, they're going to persecute you. And so we see this all over the place. And so if we're going to live out our Christian faith, persecution is going to come. Now, again, I don't want to say luckily, but in the grand scheme of history of persecution and maybe other places in the world, we consider ourselves kind of lucky. But again, persecution is not fun. It's not easy on anything. But reality of what we're going to be seeing is we're going to see, kids are going to maybe tease us. There might be some physical bullying. Maybe some friends just don't want to be friends anymore. Maybe people, maybe it's, if you're living it out in a school setting, maybe, some of your teachers are a little bit harder on you than they are the other kids. And so it can manifest itself in different ways. Different family members, maybe, again, family holidays may not be as fun to live through and go through and things of that nature. So persecution, again, looks different, but it still happens. And so in the video I talk about, in the Eat, Play, Pray video, I talk about a couple different ways, but I want to kind of dive into those a little bit more with you guys. And so there's really about 4 ways that we deal with persecution. There's the first way, and that's kind of to shy away from our faith. And so we might still have a faith, like say we're being persecuted at school or within like big family gatherings or things of that nature. When we go into those places, then we try to live, we try to quiet our faith, and then we actually begin to look more like the world. Though we keep living when we're at home, when we're with our friends, we have a vibrant faith. Just when we're in those settings, maybe we quiet it down. What I've seen happen many times, the kids that begin to learn how to do that, their faith begins to quiet down more in their life, in the rest of their life. It's not well, eventually they'll get strong enough. It usually works the opposite, as they begin to learn to live their life, their faith life, quieter. That begins to happen more at home, more even at church, and things of that nature. Now, the other extreme is when we face persecution, is to act more aggressively, like more on the offense, like we start feeling persecuted, and so we meet it full force, and we end up teasing, we end up being a bully, and things of that nature. And so either way, either of those two extremes really weakens our faith witness. And so I've watched some people, when they go at it real aggressively, people begin to really tune out any Christians. And so we begin to live like a hypocrite. There is another way that is sometimes it looks good, but in reality, it's just a false sense of humility. And it's when we face persecution, we look at it and we might rejoice. The scripture says, rejoice and be glad, but they go rejoice and be prideful. So they look at look, people are teasing me and making fun of me. Well, look how godly I must be, or look how awesome I must be living out my faith. And it's this kind of, again, it's done out of pride. It's done out of a self-glorification. And that way is not good either. That's not good for soul transformation, because there's no humility in that. It's just about pride and about propping up my own ego. And then there's what this scripture says, to learn to rejoice and be glad. And that's hard. Like, in the face of hard times, it's really difficult to say, man, I'm so glad people are making fun of me. Man, I'm so glad people are coming at me with really rude, mean comments. Man, I'm so joyful that people are really being mean and saying false things about me. Like that's really difficult. And to be glad in that, like, yay, people are making fun. Like, that's just so difficult. And so, but that's the key to this. If we're going to face persecution, we have to get to a place where we can learn to rejoice and be glad. Now, with all the different different possibilities, we do see that, again, we might fall into one of them. That doesn't mean that's how we're going to be for the rest of our life. Because again, this Christian life is about constant transformation. And so you might find yourself being quiet and like with your faith, and it's like, oh no, I've got to learn to rejoice and be glad, and learn to face that, and learn to still live out my faith. Those that get more offensive, maybe meet it more offensively, might be like, I gotta chill. I gotta humble myself before God. And so we can all grow in this. But again, when we can rejoice and be glad, now here's what I love about the Beatitudes. They're all kind of cyclical. And so what I mean is, they all kind of, as we begin to live out being poor in spirit, as peacemakers, as we begin to live that out and face persecution, then we want to begin to live out being poor in spirit and merciful even more. And then the more we do that, we're going to face more persecution. The more persecution we face, the more I want to live out and grow and, being hungering and thirsting for, righteousness. The more I want to live out showing mercy and things of that nature. So the whole process of learning how to combat persecution, and we can't really stop persecution, but how we kind of combat it on the inside of us, rejoice and be glad, and then begin to continue to press into the other Beatitudes to help us push through some of that, to face some of that. Because again, God always has us. He's not looking down saying, wow, wonder why they're going through that. No, he's there walking with you. And remember, What I love, the last thing I love about this is they refer to the prophets of old. Again, if you are facing persecution, or when you face persecution, you're not alone. Again, if you're raised in a Christian home, your parents have faced persecution, your grandparents have faced persecution, all the way back to the prophets of old. So you're not alone. If you're facing any type of persecution, don't hold it in. Find really an adult, not just a friend, but find an adult, whether that's a parent, whether it's a small group leader, whether it's a pastor, and be able to talk about it. Because again, as we begin to talk about the persecution that we face, again, that lessens it as well. You're not alone. God has you, and the family of God has you and has your back as you begin to live out the Beatitudes in your life. As you begin to face persecutions, we've got you. So that's it. Hope you can have some good discussion on that. And really, talk about, if you've had persecution, talk about it. Talk about how, the things you've done good, things you haven't done well, and about how you've seen God change and transform in your life because of that. So there you go. Blessings on you guys. Look forward to sharing with you again soon. Take care.